Modern Warfare 3 is out now, and of course, with every Call of Duty game comes new settings and things that you need to actually maximize so you can get the best performance out of yourself, your controller, and win the most games. Because honestly, winning games is more XP is things unlocked, and of course, everybody wants all the newest shiny toys as fast as they can. So today, we're going to go through some of the settings that you can do to get the most out of your game, the most out of your playtime, and improve your gameplay overall. I obviously love my Thrustmaster eSWAT Pro. This is the eSWAT Pro XR, so we're going to be going over some of the settings I'm going to use for that. I have nearing 40 hours since this game came out on Friday, so I've got a lot of time in here, and I'm going to give you some of the best settings that you're going to need to just straight up dominate when you're playing yourself some Modern Warfare 3. So let's get into it. One of the first things that I'm going to highly recommend right now for you, if you're using a controller, it's going to seem crazy, but swapping your triggers with your bumpers. I have found recently, especially as a player that enjoys claw, coming all the way from the years of Nintendo 64, I have actually moved my fire and aim all the way up to the bumpers so that it allows me to reach over and use my index fingers to control other buttons on the face while utilizing the bumpers on the top for aim and fire. And then also, I still have control of my buttons that are on the back of the controller, allowing me essentially even more control of the number of actions I can do at one time. If you're not quite a controller claw player, you can, of course, always learn with this as well, or you can keep your triggers if you prefer them. But I've personally been loving utilizing the flip to bumpers and triggers. The next thing that I think that's really important to know is the new addition to the settings menu, and that is the dead zone inputs. If you are using a Thrustmaster, obviously you can use the Thrustmaster app to control your dead zones, but if you would like, you can also go through inside Modern Warfare itself and test your dead zones. All you need to do is come down here to the stick settings and do test dead zones, turn that on and move your stick around, see if it moves. If it moves, then you have a little bit of drift, go back through and you can change your minimum or maximum depending on whatever you need. This is a good way to test to see where your controller's sitting and if any adjustments need to be made. This is extremely useful. Honestly, I think this is probably one of the best things they've added to the game as far as just a little bit of those micro nuances to really know what you're getting out of your gameplay. Now, we're going to jump over into the aiming section. The aiming section is probably the one I get asked about the most. And this is probably one of the things that I think is the most nuanced for player to player. So you're going to find things that work for you that may not work for me, or things that work for me that may not work for you. But I think these are a really good starting zone. So you can start from here and adjust until it feels just perfect for you. For me, I'm currently using the 5 and 5 setting. So I'm not going to be messing with these little bitty nuanced parts on the show less or show more bar. 5 and 5, very even kiltered. It allows you to be able to fight in close, far, and still be able to turn when you need to. I've played all the way up to 17-17 and as low as 3-3. So when I say 5-5 feels great for most situations, I think that's a pretty solid recommendation. After that, we're looking at the ADS sensitivity multiplier. This is actually how much your sensitivity increases or decreases when you ADS. Now, I personally enjoy the 0.85. So this gives me basically an 85% sensitivity whenever I'm ADS, allowing me to make a bit finer adjustment movements while not having a big sweeping change to my overall sensitivity. And then again, for the tac stance, which is brand new, this is another 0.85 for while ADSing, so at least I have some parity between the ADS sensitivity and the tac stance sensitivity. And then I can go even one step further, and that's going to be with the focus multiplier, and it's another 0.85. So it's 85% of my 5.5, and then if I focus, it's another 85% of that 85% of 5.5. This just allows me to use the focus ability, which is essentially holding your breath, to get even finer motion control overall. I think that this just gives me a good slow step down, and it's treated me exceptionally well for all sorts of fights. And then I am currently using the dynamic aim response curve. Obviously, this one is going to come down to what feels good for you. Dynamic allows for really fast movements with small stick and really sweeping movements with the far movement on the stick. So it's kind of just basically, if you move your stick too far, too fast, this is going to help you kind of reel it in, and it's pretty helpful for that. Standard is exactly the opposite, and then linear is whatever input you get is whatever you get back. Linear is the most true skill version. Dynamic allows for you to be able to make a few more mistakes and still get away with it. So dynamic is generally what I'm going to recommend for most anybody who's either just starting or just wants to play the game to kind of have fun. Whenever you start getting over into the gameplay settings, this is where you start to get a little bit deeper into what the game can offer and how you can micromanage how your character plays. I personally turn off everything that's automatic. So automatic is sprint off. I like to be able to control when my character sprints, how fast they sprint, whether or not using the tactical sprint, and this allows me to have a little bit finer control about whether or not I need to ADS really fast or if I really need to sprint fast, because going from tactical sprint to ADS is extremely slow comparatively. And even going from sprint to ADS is still pretty slow. So this allows me to kind of have a little bit more control about whether I choose to ADS faster or if I'm choosing to move faster. And I think that a little bit of learned nuance, it allows you a little bit more control about how you want to approach each fight, and it doesn't leave you with only really one option, sprint. Now, like I said before, I have turned off anything that is automatic. So grounded mantle is off, automatic airborne mantle is off, and automatic grounding mantle is off. Because by turning these off, you run less of a risk of running into these different animations that continue to get you killed in the game. Now, if you've been playing the game and you have these on, you may notice that sometimes when you're attempting to lay down behind something, you may accidentally begin to climb over a wall, or whenever you're attempting to land a jump shot, you may start trying to climb over a building, climb over a container, or anything like that. By turning these off, you have more control over when you do these actions, because you actually have to continue to go through the actions by continuing to double tap, jump, or anything of that sort. But this allows you to not accidentally trigger any of those animations and allow you a bit more control of while you fight. Another new one is the ability now to turn off diving. Now, if you come from Modern Warfare 2, you may have already become accustomed to diving, or if you come from Modern Warfare 2019, you may be more accustomed to slide canceling. This is your moment to choose how you want to do this. If you do tap to slide or tap to dive, you're staying with the Modern Warfare 2 last year's style of gameplay movement. If you go to dive only, you go into the Black Ops style of gameplay where it's always just a dolphin dive. And then if you go into slide only, you work your way back into Modern Warfare 2019's slide canceling style. And this is going to be the one that you're going to see most often, because slide canceling provides most likely for most players the most movement options. Diving still has a bit of a delay, not only before you fire, but before you can start running again. Tap to slide and tap to dive, both of them actually creates a slight delay between doing any of those actions, because now when you do tap to slide or tap to dive, you're actually forcing the game to queue an input because it needs to determine whether or not you're actually about to slide or dive. So by choosing slide or dive only, you remove a delay and allow yourself to play in one of those styles, slide only for Modern Warfare and dive only for the Black Ops style. And then one of the neat things that I think people need to actually pay attention to is the brand new tac stance. Tac stance is one of the things been added to Modern Warfare 3 that allows you to swap into it specifically rather than using just the canted laser from Modern Warfare 2. And this tac stance, I think, is honestly going to be the difference between good players and amazing players, because being able to look at the situation you're about to go into and be able to utilize tac stance is going to be the difference between winning a lot of fights or losing some fights you could have. Tac stance is a fine, nuanced kind of mode between hip fire and ADS, or like the canted laser from Modern Warfare 2019, except for now you have control to use it on almost every weapon build. There are a few scopes that block it, but for most weapon builds, this is going to be extremely important to consider. And with one of the Pro controllers, like the eSwap Pro XR, I have now taken it so that my ADS and then one of my back buttons allows me to go into tac stance, allowing me a little bit more of a fluid range of motion on how I approach gunfights, and I can swap them on the fly if I have a weapon built for long range, but I still need to engage close. Tac stance is probably one of the coolest new additions that I think people aren't going to utilize enough until they really see how strong the tac stance is. We do have Modern Warfare's update coming early in December, according to rumors. So one of the things you'll also want to look at is some of your Warzone settings. And of course, these are going to transfer over from Warzone if you already have them, but if not, you may want to consider some of these changes. One of the first is Prioritize Interact. Prioritize Interact is going to allow you to not only in the Modern Warfare's Warzone, but also in Zombies, interact with things on the ground and not spend the entire time having to hold to pick up every single item. This goes for plates, it goes for lootables, and in Warzone, this goes for everything else as well. Prioritize Interact allows you to tap to just pick up and open doors and pick up weapons and pick up plates and pick up explosives or whatever you need, and then allows you to hold to reload in any situation. This means that you will no longer have to fumble between the two. The armor plate behavior apply all allows you to be able to put all of the plates in with one hold rather than having to individually apply each section. And this can be canceled after any particular plate insert, so this allows you to be able to either do 1, 2, or 3, whichever one you're at, without having to do a bunch of different inputs. And the last one, I think that needs to be said just for anybody that may have either accessibility issues or maybe you just always forget whether or not your weapon is in single shot. This is the manual fire behavior. You can use manual fire behavior on press, which is every time you pull the trigger, it will then fire a shot, but you'll be required to pull the trigger again for every single shot after that, or hold. For weapons like the marksman rifles or any of the single action revolvers or anything like that, this will allow you to hold and it will fire. As a caveat, you will be firing in the slowest possible way whenever you're using it, but at least you may not immediately lose your gunfight because it will continue to fire if you hold. So this is one more of a accessibility option, less of a obviously tactical option, but for some of the long fights, this could actually be pretty helpful. Now, like I said, I am a huge fan of my Thrustmaster eSWAT Pro XR. And if you happen to have one of the Thrustmaster products, you can use the Thrustmaster app that you can get on Xbox or on PC to actually go through and customize your own layout for your controller. Not just the buttons on the back, but the front buttons, bumpers, triggers, and all of that as well. Meaning you have even more control over your controller and how you play in the game. Now, an important thing to note on this is there are multiple profiles, 1 and 2. You can set them individually if you want to play Call of Duty one day and then swap to, say, Forza for the next. And then on top of this, this can be saved and then exported. So that way, if you wanted to take it somewhere else to play, you can do that as well. So you don't even have to be playing on your own setup and still have all of your settings, which does make this a little bit superior than just specifically in-game settings as well. You can go through and set all of your own dead zones and your sensitivity curves inside of the app, which you'll see mine is set to linear because I like to keep mine at least very reliable on that. And then you can go through and set your own triggers and vibration settings as well. Me, I like to run mine about 50% so I don't shake myself off target, but also still get a good haptic feedback while I'm playing the game. Now, with your Thrustmaster controller, I always recommend download the app and update your controller. And if you're going to swap out your sticks, make sure you update them as well. So that way everything is on its most recent firmware update, so there's no problems with any of the settings. Now, those were some of my highest recommended settings for Modern Warfare 3 and the, of course, upcoming Warzone integration. I hope they help you just straight dominate the game. And if you're looking for more tips, tricks, feel free to check out any of my other videos over there. Or you can also join me live any morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on YouTube, and I'll help you with any questions you have. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone else, peace.